Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Menachos Daf Ches. We begin on Daf Zayin Amud Beis towards the bottom, so it's 3 lines off the bottom. Back to yesterday's discussion, where Rabbi Elazar tells us that when one does Kabbalas Adam, receives the blood of the carbon in a kli sharis, he needs to have the right amount the first time. You can't just take a little bit and then be Mekadesh more, in a different kli, and then join them together. There needs to be the original or the required shiur originally. So there needs to be a shiur mi'ikara. That's Rabbi Elazar's shita discussed yesterday. So again, in order for the kedusha to take effect, you need to have the right amount. So what happens by Menachos? There is a required shiur, right? There is an isarain, tenth of an ephah. Could you just be mekadesh half at a time, half in this kli, half in the other kli, and then mix them together, or does it have to be the right amount the first time? Says the Gemara, Umi Amar Rabbi Elazar Hachi. Is that so? According to Rabbi Elazar, by dam, the right amount is required. We have a discussion regarding Chavite Kohen Gadol. That's the daily mincha that the Kohen Gadol brings. So it starts off as an isarin, this required amount, and then he actually splits it. He does half the mincha in the morning, half in the evening. So the question is, in order for the kedusha to take effect, in order for this material, the material of his mincha, to become kaddish and kli sharis, does he need to have the full amount? Or can we say, look, in any case, he's being makrib only half in the morning, half at night. Perhaps he could be mekadesh in that manner as well. Half a isaron in the morning, then mekadesh half in the afternoon. There's a machlokes. Rabbi Yechon Amar eino kadosh l'chatzayin. If it's only half at a time, it doesn't become kaddish and kli sharis. You need a full isaron at once for the kedusha to take effect. Rabbi Elazar Amar, sure it does. Just as you are makrivit half at a time, likewise, kadosh l'chatzayin. Initially, when you're mekadesh it, you can do it half at a time. Now, that's Rabbi Elazar's shita. When it comes to the Chavite Kohen Gadol, but how is that consistent with his opinion regarding being mekadesh the blood of a carbon with ear? He says you need the full amount at once for the kedusha to be applied. Vim isa, if that's correct, that when it comes to the dam, you can't do half at a time. Leilaf midam. Why don't we learn the halacha of mincha from dam? Perhaps Rabbi Elazar does not compare different types of items. Mincha to the dam, loigama, and therefore it's not a good equation. Well, it's actually not so, because we find that Rabbi Elazar himself does compare one thing to the other and equates different things. V'amar Rabbi Elazar tells us mincha should come to beichel ksheira, the kmitza of a mincha. It took place inside the heichal. It's meant to be in the azara, right? He did it in the heichal. It's okay. Ksheira. Why? Because we find that in at least one instance that it's acceptable. Shekemotzino basiluk bazichin. That's the removal of the spoons containing the incense, the levina, from the shulchan, part of the lechem apanim arrangement. Where is that taking place? Of course, in the heichal. And siluk bazichin, Rashi explains, hainu kmitza, is tantamount to kmitza. It's a similar type of function, removing the representation for the mizbeach from the total package. So just as you can do siluk bazichin in the heichal, same with the scooping of the mincha, the kmitza of the mincha. Apparently he does compare one item to the other. Why not the same over here? Compare the mincha to the dam. Well, big difference. Says the Gemara, mincha yelov certainly equates one type of mincha to the other. A regular mincha to the lechem apanim, which is a type of mincha. So that he compares notes. But mincha midam l'yolef, he's not going to compare mincha to dam. Ask the Gemara. Mincha yolef, really? Does he compare two types of menachos to each other? Batani, we have a brisa regarding lechem hapanim. Achalei pirka nifras lachma. Suppose the bread or the breads broke apart. We're talking about the lechem hapanim. Before pirka means before it was disassembled. So every Shabbos they would remove the old batch and replace it with a new batch. So pirka means replacement, when they remove the breads off the table. And the the spoons of the levina, right? So before that happened, so basically before the mincha was sort of processed, nifras lachma, the bread broke. Nifras is a lashon of prusa, right? So it broke apart. Broke into two pieces. Halechem pasel. That's it. Lechem becomes pasel because it needs to be whole, intact. Ve'ein maktir olav as habazichen, and you can no longer burn the bazichen with the levina on the mizbeach. The mincha has become pasel. Failed mincha, failed lechem hapanim, misha parka. But if this occurrence occurred after prika, after they removed the breads and the bazichin, right? Misha parka. Some say it means only the bazichin. That's the critical point, which is like the kmitza. So once the hakrava sort of got started, misha parka, nifras lachman, then the breads fell apart. Halechem pasel. Although the bread itself is pasel, Rashi explains it's like the halach of shirayim in a mincha, because after all the breads are like leftovers, left behind, so to speak. You have to be makrib the bazichim, which are representatives to the mizbeach. That's sort of the leftovers. So shirayim that goes missing, in this case, if it falls apart, it's like it went missing. It's losing its form, so you can't eat it anymore. Okay, so shirayim go missing between the kmitza and the aktorah of the kmitza. The shirayim are also bachila, so that's out. Halachem pasel, but you can proceed with the aktorah of the levina. V'maktir olav v'sal bazichin, you can maktir the bazichin, the spoons of the levina. So really, it depends when this breakage took place. Before the hakrava process started, then the whole thing is pasel. But after the hakrava process began, you already removed the bazichin, you started the process of the aktorah. At that point, if the breakage took place, the breads are out, but the aktorah of the bazichin can proceed as normal. When we say pirka, we don't mean actually pirka. As long as the time for piruk took place. As long as the time of piruk arrived, and Rashi explains that to mean past chatzos, which is the appropriate time to do the aktorah of the bazichin. So once that time arrives, even though pirka never yet occurred, kimisha parka dam, it's considered as though it occurred. If it's available for aktorah, it's as though the process began, and you're saved. Ask the Gemara. Why is it dependent on timing? Let it be compared like to a regular mincha, whose shirayim went missing before kmitza. The halacha is, it's a clear halacha in that case, if the isara, the amount, was diminished before kmitza, the mincha has failed. It's possible. So here as well, if the breads fell apart before kmitza, before removal of the bazichin, says the Gemara leikash. The answer is like this. Although Rabbi Lezer would compare one mincha to the other, it's not like comparing mincha to dam, which he doesn't compare. Mincha to mincha he does compare, but you have to understand lechem hapanim is a little bit different than a standard mincha, because here it's clearly two separate elements within this package. You have the breads and you have the levina sitting beside the breads. It's like a sort of a separate component within the package. So in that sense, you can say that as long as it's already time for aktorah of those bazichin, we sort of treat them separately. You don't have to reckon with the fact that the breads fell apart. As opposed to a regular mincha, which is one single bowl, one single unit before kmitza. And if at that point something goes wrong with the amount, it's diminished, the whole thing is possible. Halakasha mincha lebarer. Breira kaimis today. By regular mincha, the kaimitz portion is not yet identifiable. Like boirer, it's not separate. So it gets swept along with the rest. But vaha, as opposed to the lechem aponim, the bazichim of lechem aponim, barer breira kaimis today, the kaimitz, so to speak, the levaina and the bazichim, which is labeled like the comparable to a kaimitz of a mincha, is already sort of separate. And therefore, since, number one, it's separate, number two, the time has come to be makter it sort of disengages. Once the time has come to do this, Command the Parkadam, says, oh, it's done, and you can sort of ignore what happens to the breads. Says the Gemara. Okay, but still, you're right, it's not treated like the mincha that was missing before the kmitza. But let it be like the leftovers that was missing after the kmitza. Now we know, according to some, you can't proceed with the kmitza, the aktar of the kmitza. So again, you do the kmitza, and then the leftover sitting here, some of it went missing. Some hold that it aborts the process, because the shiraim are also part of this arrangement. If that's the case, fine. It's already chatzois. The levain is sort of detached now. Now the breads fell apart. At best, it should be like the shiraim that went missing between kmitza and aktorah. The ein maktir and kaimetz, you can't proceed and do aktorah of the kaimetz. Likewise over here, don't do the aktorah of the bazichen. Well, it's not so simple. It's a machlekes, and we hold like the shita that you could lav pluk daninu. Isn't it a machlekes? And Rabbi Lezer Savla Kamandam holds like the shita that in fact you could proceed in this instance. Shiraim shechasru, leftovers that went missing, make kmitza aktorah between kmitza and aktorah. You can proceed and burn the kaimetz on the mizbeach, and likewise the bazichem on the mizbeach as well. Mak the kaimetz alei. Good. Let's go back to the machlekes we discussed before regarding the chavitin that were done piecemeal. Chavita kohen gadol. Rabbi Yechon Amar ein akdesh lechatzon. You can't be makadosh in a kli half at a time. It's got to be the full amount at once, even though the aktar will take place part at a time. Rabbi Lezer Amar, no, it goes hand in hand. Just as you makriv it half at a time, kadosh lechatzon, you can be makadosh it initially half at a time. Amar b'ach my time. Rabbi Yechon, why does Rabbi Yechon insist they do it all at once? Amar kra mincha machtzisa. Instead of saying machtzis mincha, the mincha says the pasuk says mincha machtzisa, which sounds like it's got to be a full entity, and then you split it. Havi mincha, v'achar kach chaytzeu. First bring the heavy mincha. First he brings the full sira se'efa in one kli, makadosh, and then you split it into two, and you offer it piece by piece. Meisvei, here comes a kasha on Rabbi Lezer who says you can do it half at a time to begin with. Meisvei, chaviti kohen gadol lo hayu bois chatzoin. The Brisa clearly says you can't bring it half at a time. Ela maybe yisar and shalom, you have to bring the full amount for chatzoin, and then you split it. But Tanya, furthermore, we have a Brisa ilu nema mincha machzis. The pasuk would say mincha machzis. I would say, okay, bring half the mincha. Hayisoim maybe chatzi yisar mi beisai shachris umakriv. That would indicate that the kohen gadol brings half the amount over to Beis HaMikdash, is makriv, does the same in the afternoon. Chatz Yisrael mi Beis HaYarvis, makriv brings half the Yisrael from his home in the evening as makriv as well. That's what I would think. Half of this in the morning, half of this in the evening. What does that tell you? That there's a full entity before you. And then you take half for the morning, half for the evening. Mechza mishalom hu maybe. He's cutting half of the full amount that's already here in a klisharis. Apparently, you can't do it half at a time. Says the Gemara the mitzvah. Even Rabbi Lezer agrees that it's preferable. It's a mitzvah. But even if it's done the other way, it works. How could you say that it's not critical? The pasuk uses the word chak olam, which denotes absoluteness. You can't. When the pasuk says chayk, it's referring to how the kohen gadol brings it from his house. So basically, he has to be magdash, the fully sarin at once. But in terms of putting it into the klisharis in the Beis Hamikdash, which is the next phase, that Rabbi Eliezer holds can be done half at a time. Says the Gemara, is that so that according to Rabbi Yochanan, you can't be mekadosh half at a time? Umi Amar, Rabbi Yochanan, we have a discussion regarding a regular, mincha, which also requires an isarin. Hifresh chatzi isarin. So he has a klisharis, and he puts a half of isarin at a time. V'data l'hoisif. He plans on adding more. He's going to get some more. He's going to put it into the same kli and, fill it. Rav Amar in a kaddish. Rav says it's not yet kaddish until he completes the required amount. A mincha needs to be a isarin. Rabbi Yochanan Amar kaddish. Rabbi Yochanan says it's kaddish for the time being, even though he has yet to fill it. Hold it. According to Rabbi Yochanan, a partial amount can become kaddish. Isa. If that is so, that according to Rabbi Yochanan by the chavitin, half doesn't work. Leilif mechavitin. Why can't we learn the halacha of a regular mincha to say that half doesn't work from chavitin, where it also doesn't work? Perhaps you'll say Rabbi Yochanan milsam milsal yolov. Rabbi Yochanan doesn't compare different types of karbonos, and therefore you don't learn one from the other. Really, we find that Rabbi Yochanan himself does compare. He says you could, if you took the carbon shlamim, and instead of doing the shchita and the azara, you did it inside in the heichel, it's okay. Why? Pasuk says you do the shchita at the entrance to the oil mayit of the heichel, which indicates that the focal point, the primary, is the heichel. You're doing it at the entrance to the heichel. So if it's good at the entrance, surely it's good inside. Oh, you can't say the tafel, a secondary area, the outside area, at the entrance to the heichel is chamer, is stricter, is more critical and more acceptable than the ikr, than the primary area, which is the heichel himself. So basically, he's learning one area from the other. It's comparing to the heichel to the azar to the heichel. So likewise, you should compare a regular mincha to minchas chavitin, that there's no kedusha l'chatzoin. Well, says the Gemara, you're right, but here it's different. Data l'hoisiv shani. Here he plans on completing the amount very soon. He's not planning on leaving it like this. Right? So picture it. He has a big bowl. Instead of bringing the isarin at once, he pours in half, and he's going to get more and pour it in as well. So the kedusha begins already now because he plans on completing, as opposed to the case of chavitin, where he's going to do half the isarin in this kli and come back later and do another half of isarin in the other kli. He's not going to add it to the original amount. In that case, it doesn't work. The Sani, we find this distinction in the following brayso, that when you plan on finishing and adding, it's better. Malayim. Pasuk says that the klei sharis were filled. Ein malayim el shleimim means it's filled with the proper amount. When do we say that half the amount doesn't become kaddish in the klei sharis? That's only when he plans on leaving it like that. Bisman she'ein dat lohisif. Aval bisman she'dat lohisif, but he plans on completing the amount in this very kli, rishon kaddish. So any little bit that goes in is already kaddish on account of that plan. Okay, so far we have two opinions regarding partial kedusha by a mincha. Rabbi Eliezer says even by chavitin, half at a time works. Rabbi Yochanan says it does not, and by regular mincha as well. But if you plan on being moisif and being mashlim and completing the amount, then it's not considered halfway. Then it works. Okay, so again, according to Rabbi Eliezer, halfway works. According to Rabbi Yochanan, does not, unless you plan on completing it. Now, Rav's opinion is on the other side of the spectrum. He says that even when you plan on completing it, there's no kedusha applicable to this material in the klei sharis until you actually complete and fill the amount. Ask the Gemara, V'Rav b'chaviti k'man svirle. Now, Rav says that even in this case, when he plans on topping it up, there's no kedusha until it happens. Where's his source? So let's sort of analyze it. When it comes to the halacha of chavitin, the case of the Kohen Gadol's mincha that we discussed earlier, we have Rabbi Yochanan who says that half doesn't work. We have Rabbi Eliezer says it does work. Whose opinion is Rav following? B'chavita k'masfirle. Ikar Rabbi Lezer is like Rabbi Lezer, that halfway works. Leilif mechavitin. Then he should learn from chavitin to other menachos, right? Just as by chavitin partial works, by other menachos it certainly should work, right? Rav milsa milsa yelef. Perhaps you'll say Rav doesn't, compare, the regular menacha to the chavitin. It's not a, Vama Rav. We find that Rav does compare different types of menachos. In fact, Rav declared as follows: Mincha kedosha b'lo shem. Although a standard, mincha, which has a couple of elements, it has flour, it's mixed with oil, it has lavoina as well. Suppose he put the mincha in a kli without the oil. Is the kedusha activated? Yeah, mincha kedosha b'lo shemen. Some add the words of b'lo lavoina because we find a certain mincha without oil. Apparently, oil is not critical to the kedusha of the mincha. Shekein matzinu lechem hapanim has no oil, and just as kedusha is applied there, it's applied here as well. You'll add the oil later, but in the meantime, it's kaddish. Likewise, a mincha that was put in a klisharis without lavoina, b'lo lavoina, also becomes kaddish. Shekein matzinu b'minchas nesachim. Certain type of mincha doesn't have lavoina. What about a mincha without oil, b'lo shemen, b'lo lavoina, without oil or lavoina? Right, if it's missing both, no oil, no lavoina, it's also kaddish. Because there's a certain mincha that doesn't have either. Shkem matzina minchas chayte, mincha b'sinner, it has none. Apparently he compares one mincha to the other. Just as it works there, it works here. So why can't he compare regular mincha to minchas chavitin? Regarding halfway kedusha, al kachak Rav Rabbi Yechon svirle, certainly Rav will hold like Rabbi Yechonon, that minchas chavitin and a regular mincha would not become kaddish halfway. And Rav adds another strictness. He says, even if the intention is to complete the shear, kedusha will not happen until that shear is present. Okay, so bottom line is we have two discussions regarding partial kedusha, right? Kedusha being chal on a partial amount. Regarding minchas chavitim, we have Rabbi Lezer who says, just as you're makriv it half at a time, the kedusha can land on it half at a time. According to Rabbi Yechonon, no, unless you have the full amount to begin with. Regarding other menachos, Rabbi Yechonon says, as long as you plan on completing it, the kedusha will happen now. Whereas according to Rav, even in that case, kedusha will not happen until you have the full amount in the kli. Now let's go back and review the most recent statement of Rav. Gufa Amar Rav. So ideally, a mincha is meant to have, the flour, the oil, the lavoina, everything together in the kli. But even if only one or two of those elements are present, says Rav, kedusha can happen because we find that at times that is sufficient to generate kedusha. Regarding other menachos, guf amar Rav, mincha kedusha b'lo shemen, it could happen without oil. Of course, I'll have to add the oil later, but in the interim, it's kaddish, just as lechem hapanim doesn't contain oil and there's still kedusha. So we see that the mincha can become kaddish in this manner. Shkem matzim lechem hapanim. A mincha has no lavoina, b'lo lavoina, kedusha can happen. Shkem matzim minchas nesachim, which has no lavoina. Without oil, b'lo shemen, b'lo lavoina, it also works. In the meantime, just like a minchas chayte, which is lacking both those elements, and it's still going to be kaddish. Shkem matzim minchas chayte, and he continues, v'shemen, u'lavoina, kachi hai b'lo hai. Suppose you have just oil in the kli, or just lavoina in a kli. Likewise, kedusha can happen because we find such a type of carbon. Kachi hai b'lo hai v'lai b'lo hai. Why? Shemen, oil on its own, like we find by the Matzara. Shkematzinu b'loik shemen shel Matzara. There's a luk shemen that he brings, standalone offering. Apparently, it's standalone. Likewise, lavoina on itself could also have kedusha in the kli. Shkematzinu b'lavoina b'vazichin. We find that the lavoina and those spoons, right, they're on their own, not mixed in with anything else. Apparently, that in itself could generate kedusha. So that's Rav's opinion. Flour, oil, levina, each one on its own. Rabbi Chanina Amar, no, he says, unless you have all the required ingredients, there's no kedusha generated. Loi zay kedusha bloi zay, v'loi zay kedusha bloi zay, right? This ingredient without the other one, and vice versa, does not work. Ask the Gemara. Fine, so according to Rabbi Chanina, it's one single entity, inseparable, indivisible. And kedusha waits until you have it all together. Rabbi Chanina, according to Rabbi Chanina, Yisar lo nimshach. Why did they sanctify the klisharas that contained an isarin, right? The isarin measure. Why was it, smeared with oil of the shemen hamishcha, which is typically done, right? The purpose is to give the kli the ability to mekadosh its content. Well, there's no kedusha happening in the isarin, which is simply going to be holding the flour, purely flour. There's no kedusha happening until you add everything else in the big bowl. The answer is for the Menachos who doesn't have any other ingredients. So in his case, the isaron of pure flour will become kaddish. Why was the lug made holy? Like for the purpose of the mitzvah. But regarding a standard mincha, there's no kedusha happening until you mix it all together. Continues the Gemara. So we have Rav who says that even one ingredient at a time could become kaddish, as opposed to Rabbi Chanina who says, unless you have it all together. Vav Shmuel the Rav. We find that Shmuel also agrees with Rav. That one at a time works. It's not. We have a Mishnah in Menachos. Klei halach, mekashnis halach. We have different types of containers in the Beis Hamikdash. Those meant for liquids. Those meant to measure dry materials. And these kelim have kedusha, as we explained, to sanctify, to generate kedusha on their contents. The halach is that each kli can only function within its realm. Klei halach, mekashnis halach, the ones meant for liquids, only mekadosh liquids within them. Umidish hayavish, mekashnis hayavish, likewise a dry for the dry. You can't mix them up. Vein klei halach mekashnis hayavish. If you put dry material in a pitcher meant for wet, there's no kedusha, and vice versa. V'lo umidish hayavish, the ones meant for dry material are not going to be mekashnis halach. V'amar Shmuel lo yishanu, that's only true alamidas. Only containers that are meant for measurement. So they have a very specific defined function. To measure dry, not wet. Aval mizrakos, but these containers, which are meant to contain, let's say, blood, even though they're meant for liquids, mekashnis hayavish, they can work even for dry materials, like flour of a mincha. Shenemar, as we find in the pasuk, Shnei malei mitzvahs b'lu b'shem mincha. We have the psukim discussing these types of these very containers, the ones meant for the dam, the mizrakos, and we see they're filled with mincha material. Apparently, if it's just a regular bowl, a regular container, not a measuring utensil, just a container, even though it's intended for lach, it can work for yavish as well, like a mincha. So the wording of Shmuel indicates that even if it's yavish, even if it's something totally dry, like just plain flour, kedusha can be generated. That's like Rab, who says kedusha can land on even one ingredient at a time. Amalei Rav Acha. Now we're just going to clarify. We're going to analyze Shmuel's statement. He's deriving from the pasuk where they use the blood containers for the mincha to learn that containers can be used even for dry material. But your example is a mincha. Mincha is moist. It's not really dry. It's flour mixed with oil. So how could you compare it to just plain dry? He says, but you're right, within the mix there's going to be some granules that are still dry. And the proof is from there. Apparently it works even on dry. Another answer to this is mincha comparable to the blood, which is completely liquid. A mincha is relatively dry. Mincha comparable to blood is kiyavish dam is compared to dry. It's relatively dry, right? So apparently it works on dry as well. Let's go back to another point that we mentioned earlier, which was Rebbe Lezer's point. Amar Belazar, mincha should come to veichel kshira. If the kmitza of a mincha was done in the eichel, it's okay. It works. Just as we find by the lechem hapanim, which is taking place inside the eichel. Shkem masina basilik pozichen. The silik pozichen, as we explained, is like an act of kmitza. It's removing the element of representation to the mizbeach from the overall package. And that's taking place where? Off the shulchan and the eichel. Apparently, kmitza can be done there. Masir Rav Yirmiyah, you have a question. He says, Rav Yirmiyah, you have a brisa, which indicates otherwise. The kmitza has to take place outside in the azara. V'kametz misham, he does kmitza from there. What's this reference to? That's where the zara, the non-kohanim stand. That's the first section of the azara. Apparently, the kmitza has to take place there, not inside of the echel. But Meseir Omer, since we discussed the other day, Meseir says, what if a kohen did it with his left hand? Can he return the material and do kmitza again with the right? Misham says, you can even redo it. Take another scoop from that same location where you already did, so you can redo it. Okay, in any case, the question is from the first part of the brisa. Kmitza has to take place outside in the azara. One version of the events was like this: who asked this kashi himself offered a solution. Some say it was somebody else who answered it. Amalei Rav Yaakov. Rav Yaakov was one who turned the Rav Yirmiyah b'tachlifa, and he says, Azbal, let me explain to you. Let me give you an answer. It doesn't have to be strictly in the azara. It's not exclusively in the azara. The point of the brisa was to allow kmitza in all areas of the azara, even on that first section with the Yisraelim minder. It's meant to allow you to do kmitza throughout the entire azara, even in that first section which is meant for the Yisraelim. You shouldn't come back and argue and say no, right? It's coming to undo perhaps a notion that you can have. Since an oila is Kadsha Kadashim, the highest form of Kedusha, and Mincha is also labeled as Kadsha Kadashim, so perhaps you can't do it back there. Ma'ila to an itzafin, just like the Shechita of the oila is to take place in the Tzafin of the Azara specifically. Likewise, the Kmitza of the Mincha, which is corresponding to the Shechita of a carbon, Av Mincha Tunat Tzafin. That's what I would think. And you can't do it in the back of the Azara, over in the east. Comes the pasuk and says, "V'kamas misham," even where the owner is standing back in the, the back of the Azara. Now, why would I think? But 1 second. But certainly in the Hechel as well, as per Reb Lezer's statement. Now, why would I even think to compare it to the Oila? And Oila is a different story. My Oila shkein kalal, and Oila is fully burnt on a mizbech. It's a different world. Okay, mechatas, I would compare the mincha to the chatas, which doesn't have that element, and needs tzafin. So perhaps the kmitza of the mincha as well needs to be tzafin. Well, it's not a fair comparison. Chatas has the ability to atone for Kari's sins. Okay, so I learned it from the Asham, which doesn't have that ability and requires tzafin. So perhaps the mincha as well. Well, you can't compare. Asham shkein minei damim, and Asham is an animal. It's blood. It's Rashi says the ikur kapara happens through dam, right? So it has that added, advantage which a mincha doesn't have. Why would I compare the two? Mikulanami, and even if I would attempt to sort of link them all together as a common source, oila, chata, tzafin, all three require tzafin, despite their differences. Perhaps a mincha as well. Mikulanami, I can't learn from all three as well. Shkein minei dam, because all three have something in common that the mincha doesn't have, their blood offerings. So why would I even think that a mincha cannot be done anywhere in the Azar? El Istrich. The answer is like this. The pasuk is required because, I would think, the pasuk says that you give it to the kohen who does hagasha. So he taps the kli with the mincha to the corner of the mizbeach, and then it says v'kamas. Then he does the kmitza. Perhaps it needs to be the same location as the hagasha, which is right near the mizbeach. Hagasha, just like hagasha takes place b'kerem at the corner of dramis maravas of the mizbeach. Av kmitza nami b'kerem dramis maravas. Perhaps the kmitza has to take place at that same location as well. Comes the pasuk and says, "V'kamatz misham," you're free to do it anyway in the Azara Kamashma. Goof. Let's go back to Oma halacha that we learned earlier as well, regarding the shechita ve'shlamim in the heichel. Amar v'yechanan shlamim sheshachta be'echel is ksherim. Shenema we have a pasuk. V'shachta pesach ha'olam. Why you do it at the entry of the Oyel Moed, in the Azara facing the Oyel Moed. Apparently the focal point is the Oyel Moed, is the Heichel. So certainly if you do it inside, you're good. You can say that Tafel is secondary is better than the primary. The Azara is okay, certainly the Heichel. Meisvei, here comes a kasha. You always apply this principle. What about regarding eating karbanos? Rabbi Doin. Rabbi Meseroin. Menayin. What about a case of Shemikifu Oivdei Kechavim Sazara? The Goyim are attacking the Beis Hamikdash. They're shooting missiles into the unroofed area of the Azara. The Kehanim are fearing for their life. So they're running into the Heichel to eat their karbanos. The Heichel, which is a roofed, protected area. Is that acceptable? Can the Kehanim go into the Heichel and eat their karbanos? There's a special pasuk. Karbanos can be eaten in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in the Heichel. Why do we need a special pasuk? Look, if you can eat it outside, certainly inside, based on Rabbi Yechanan's analogy, right? Well, why a special pasuk to allow them to eat inside? Lema. We have a pasuk which says you can eat it outside, in the Azara, in the courtyard. And the Mishkan was a courtyard, right? If you get it outside, certainly inside. The outside can be better than the inside. So why a special pasuk to allow it? The answer is eating is different than avodah. When it comes to shechting a carbon, that's avodah. It's appropriate to do it inside. If you do it outside, certainly it works inside. But eating, perhaps it's not appropriate to eat in the presence of the Shekhinah, in the primary location of Shekhinah. Outside, yes, but not inside. That's why I need a special pasuk to allow it. Answers the Gemara. Avoid when it comes to serving. It's appropriate for a person to serve in the presence of his master. And there we apply the analogy of Rabbi Yechanan. If you can do it outside, certainly closer in. But achila, consuming karbanis, where's not there a cheres to do so? In the inner sanctum. It's not appropriate to eat in front of your Rebbe. And therefore, time of the Kazak Pra. It only works when the pasuk allows it. But if not for the pasuk explicitly allowing it, I wouldn't on my own say lo yeh tafel chamim neikar. Right? This concept of lo yeh tafel chamim neikar, I wouldn't necessarily apply it. I wouldn't apply it without this pasuk. But now the pasuk explicitly allows it. We say it's okay. Okay, just to summarize today's daf, we started with halfway kedusha. So regarding the minchas chavitin, Rabbi Yechanan says no, fully saran in the kli, otherwise it's not kaddish. Rabbi Lezer says, well, if you anyway is going to be makriv at halfway, you can be kaddish it as well. What about a regular mincha that he's being kaddish part at a time? According to Rabbi Yechanan, if he plans on completing it in the kli, so it's kaddish already now. Rab says no, even in that case it's not kaddish until it's fully complete. Rab tells us another halacha as well, that if you have the full amount of flour but no, not yet oil or levina, so each element on its own could be kaddish, because we find kedusha applicable to each element in various contexts. Shmuel agrees to Rab as well. Rabbi Chanina disagrees. He says kedusha only happens when you have the full ingredients, all ingredients, in the kli at once. We have two more halachas regarding locations. According to Rabbi Lezer, the kmitza of a mincha and a heichel works. It's comparable to siluk bazichin, and Rabbi Yechon teaches us that the shchita of ishlamim and the heichel works as well, because of lo yeh tafel chamim neikar. All the best to you and much, much hatzlacha.